It is now fewer than 100 days until the November general election. Ahead on Face the State. Today, we're looking at how the high-profile races in Ohio are shaping up in the home stretch toward November 3rd. The races for governor and U.S. Senate, and how advertising spending could impact the races. Republican and Democratic strategists join me to break down how it's all setting up. Also,
what good does it do to ship them out of the United States? Does that do our country any good?
thousands of Haitian immigrants in Ohio just lost temporary protected status. We look at the fears in the community, why Homeland Security is ending the protections, and what legal options the Haitians here have. Plus,
this looks like a butter cow, and it's got the tablespoon measurements like a stick of butter.
The new old-fashioned children's carousel is now open for riders at the State Fair. First Lady Fran DeWine explains some of the special features that really reflect the Buckeye State. Face the State starts now. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. We're looking at the big political showdowns, and showdowns they are proving to be, with political ads blanketing the airways, the internet, and social media. Ohio is in the national spotlight with a crucial race in the battle over which party will hold the majority in the U.S. Senate. Plus, we have a key race for governor. And those big contests pit Democrat Dr. Amy Acton against Republican Vivek Ramaswamy for governor. And for Senate, former Senator Democrat Sherrod Brown against Republican incumbent John Husted. And these two races are also proving to be very expensive. The company Ad Impact tracks and analyzes advertising data. It's projecting Ohio will be the fourth most expensive state this election cycle, with nearly $750 million spent on political ads. That includes $377 million on the Senate race, $172 million on the race for governor, and $90 million on down-ballot races. Joining me now to discuss how the big races are shaping up are Democratic strategist Morgan Harper. Morgan, thanks for being here. And Republican strategist Terry Casey. Terry, welcome as always. First of all, let's start with that advertising money that's coming in. Any surprise to you that we're talking that many millions of dollars?
Not really. I mean, especially when we're looking at the Senate race, this is a huge deal about who's going to have power in Washington moving into 2027. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, just generally politically. And the administration, the president, is not very popular, and the economy's not doing that well. And so I think given a lot of those factors, folks are going to do whatever they can, especially on the Republican side, to try to flood the zone and make sure that they're able to prop up these candidates that are tied to an unpopular agenda.
What do you think about all that spending, Terry?
Well, no surprise, because 2 years ago, $500 million was spent in the Senate race. We won't hit quite that much, but there's a lot of dynamics going on, including, as I've warned people in the past, and it's more so in the next 3 months, have your remote handy and the mute button, because people get tired of it. Because when you're watching Jeopardy and there's 3, 4, or 5 political commercials in a row, all name calling everybody which way, I'm not sure that TV is as effective as it used to be, because it's kind of gotten old. And again, the public, whether it's internet ads or it's TV, are getting used to ignoring it.
And you mentioned the negativity of it too. We do see ads that are kind of like the introduction ads or the issue ads, where they talk about, John Husted supports veterans. We're seeing that one, or Amy Acton introducing herself, and Vivek Ramaswamy did the same thing back in March. So you have like the positive ads, but then you just get bombarded with the negative.
But it's like a sewer system, and again, the public is pretty smart, because again, Ohio over the years, presidential races, 2 years ago, the Senate race, people learn how to ignore and discount the attacks back and forth.
Well, and I want to pick up on something else Terry said, just in terms of how much we're flooded with content. Yeah. A lot of these ads, particularly on the Democratic side, we're going to need a lot of younger people, and I'm defining younger as 50 and under, let's say, to come out and vote for us if we're going to be successful here. And where are they getting content? YouTube. Especially looking at the types of platforms now, the people who are hosting podcasts, that are hosting a lot of shows on YouTube where these ads might appear, they are very loud with their opinions. So if you're coming out with an ad that's a little softer, that's a little more introductory, I'm not sure that we have a lot of time for that. I think if we don't have messages that are cutting through very, very clearly about what you're about to do to solve a problem, it might not be paid that much attention.
I actually was going to ask that question too about messaging. Do you think, and I'll ask you from both perspectives, I'll start with you, Terry, but are Republicans, is the messaging working?
Well, I'm not sure either side has figured out the right messaging because, again, people will make promises like Dr. Amy on school funding, the Patterson plan that's going to cost probably billions of dollars, but doesn't say where the money comes from. The public wants affordability, including property taxes, but yet people make promises to spend more, but who's going to pay for it? Because somebody has to pay, because at the state level, you can't print money like the federal government will. And then the other point to back up what Morgan said is that more people get TV off of streaming rather than off the conventional broadcast. So it's changed, particularly with younger people.
And it's the same for you, Morgan. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there has been a lot of room for growth of the messaging. I mean, something that we've talked about earlier. Take, for example, like we didn't have competitive primaries. I think this is going to be really relevant this cycle because we don't know for sure where their energy is at, but we do have polling. We have polling that shows people hate data centers. We have polling that shows that people are very stressed about healthcare costs, and it's not going to be enough, in my opinion, to just identify those issues with some light solutions, policy-sounding solutions. You've got to be willing to show you're breaking through and fighting.
If we were sitting here a year ago, would you have thought that data centers would have been the big political issue that they are right now?
Not yet, but we haven't heard, because the data centers are complicated because there's a lot of union construction jobs involved. And also there's a bigger national defense issue. Do we want the data centers in China and Russia and our confidential information over there? So there's debate.
But it's there. I mean, it's like everywhere that people are talking about.
It's everywhere, and it's a big money issue. And I'm going to push back on Terry a little bit here, because yes, we want to make sure people have jobs, but people, the regular people out here, general public knows this is a big money, big tech play. These guys are making a lot of dollars off of this, and they are now potentially tanking the economy with how much it's getting weighted towards AI, which is what data centers are all about. The public knows that. People are already feeling the impacts of high utility costs. They now know that data centers make it worse, and that's where I think there's a real opportunity to be aggressive.
And if we really want to put people to sleep, we can talk about how the PJM system works in 13 states and allocates
That's
power,
for another show, I think.
And why they haven't been visionary in planning for the future. But again,
wouldn't put it in an ad.
No, but that's a whole half-hour show, maybe.
So let's get back to the candidates too. When you're talking about former Senator Sherrod Brown and current Senator John Husted or Vivek Ramaswamy versus Dr. Acton, are you seeing these two races kind of shaping up neck and neck? Are they going to be tight in November?
Well, they're both very different, because for governor, you've got two people running for governor who've never held previous elective office and haven't had to deal with 26 cabinet members balancing a budget, figuring out how all the things work, and not knowing, because a lot of the state's money comes from the federal government, how will the rules be changed in the next 2 years. So whether it's governor or senator. And then the Senate, the interesting contrast is Sherrod is the outsider technically, but he's 32 years in Congress and older, so who's the outsider, who's the challenger? Because clearly, agree with Morgan, the public is unhappy with everybody in public office, DNR.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super interesting how the races are distinct in certain ways. Like Terry said, two outsiders, Amy Acton, Vivek Ramaswamy, have neither of them have held public office, and they're going to be new to Ohioans.
Or elected public office anyway, right?
Yes, elected office, I should say. Yes, exactly. And they're introducing themselves, and then Sherrod and Husted, consummate insiders by anybody's definition, really. But what unites them, I think, both is you can point Husted and Vivek are part of the same apparatus. Getting back to our prior point in conversation, the big money. And so we're going to have to really tap into the grassroots energy that is working against that. And that's where, it's a little bit of a TBD
but
situation.
Be careful on the more money argument, because Sherrod's on TV more, and he's getting most of his money from California, New York, and out-of-state people. So there's big money on both sides. And Sherrod, again, 32 years in Congress, a lot of lobbying contributions from the PACs. I mean, he's an insider. Houston's an insider more at the state level than the federal level. So
but I think the kind of money here will matter. And like we're hearing more announcements from Elon Musk, for example, that he's going to be getting involved in these races, and PAC money, the outside spending money. Arguably one of the most corrupt administrations in Washington right now that John Husted has not done anything to push back on significantly. And Vivek having been part of that and the Doge effort and Elon Musk, it's all tied together, and the public is connecting these dots.
You know, as we look at the Iran conflict kind of continuing, and beyond the July 4th time period where people had hoped that it would die down and the gas prices would come back down, gas prices are still up near $4 a gallon. How much of an impact are those kitchen table issues going to have, as well as the midterm effect coming in November?
In talking to one congressman this week, I think the magic point is $3.50 a gallon, because if it's $4 or more, then that's a bigger problem. If it gets down to $3.50, $3. So. And
are Republicans getting blamed for that?
Well, there's a lot of people mad at Republicans because they view they're in charge, but they also view the whole thing, everything in D.C. on both sides, because the Democrats have got an interesting family fight going on of the socialist populist wing versus some of the Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi establishment wing.
Well, last time I checked, nobody was blaming DSA for starting a war with Iran. So I think this is Donald Trump's war. The costs that are going up because of it, people know, very much connected to the supply chain issues. And this is an opportunity to really expose just how much the American people are hurting. Data coming out yesterday showing how much the economy is really relying on consumer spending that is being fueled by credit, financing, debt, and the only business growth that seems to be happening is because of AI. Again, the most profitable companies in the world right now.
And getting back to the midterm too effect, typically you see the party in power lose seats in the House and Senate. Terry, finally today, what do you expect to happen in that regard?
Well, in theory, that would have happened in 2018, and Richard Cordray would have been governor, but Mike DeWine got elected when Trump was in his second year as president. But clearly, it's a difference in turnout. And the off years like gubernatorial is very different than presidential, who shows up. And both sides have turnout problems. But on the Democrat side, except in Ohio, 08 and 12, when Obama was on the ballot and energized younger, urban, minority voters, the Democrats haven't had that kind of excitement at their base. So both sides have got a turnout problem on the base.
I'll give you the final word on this, Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to an extent, where turnout is what is going to matter. Democrats, of course, we don't have a great track record in a lot of statewide elections lately. And that's where, some of these interactions that are having with some of our core constituencies, black voters, young voters unhappy with some of the messaging around, and not just young, the gay community also not really liking some of the messaging. These are the types of things that could be meaningful when we, or hopefully will be in a position of eking out a close victory.
Now, my math might not be exactly correct, but I believe Democrats have only won one of the last, 22 or 24 statewide races, and I believe that was Senator Brown.
And if I could add one more thing, and with the war, even if there is some negotiation, it's not clear there's time actually for the pricing impacts to come to have an effect positively for Republicans in the midterms.
And we'll see how that plays out. We have 3 months basically until that big day. Thank you both once again for coming in.
More shows and more guessing.
Yeah, we'll come back in again, and we'll do this again in a few weeks. Thank you guys very much. Well, still ahead on Face the State. It's been nearly a week since the Trump administration ended temporary protected status for thousands of Haitian immigrants in the U.S. under that program. Next, an immigration attorney weighs in on the legal implications of the decision. Just days ago, hundreds of thousands of immigrants lost temporary protected status, leaving many families in limbo here in Ohio. The Supreme Court ruled in June the U.S. government could end deportation protections for Haitian and Syrian immigrants. Those protections ended Monday. That's causing plenty of uncertainty in places like Springfield, where an estimated 12,000 to 15,000 Haitian immigrants live. The Trump administration argues TPS was always meant to be temporary. 10 TV's Kristen McFarland has the story.
Haitian immigrants in Springfield now facing uncertainty. The temporary protected status program, which allows people from certain countries facing unsafe conditions to legally live and work in the United States, has ended.
I think I am devastated from the way I see people are so concerned for their lives and the lives of their kids.
Viles Dorsenville, the executive director of the Haitian Support Center in Springfield and a TPS holder himself, says the decision has left many Haitian families fearing for their future. Dorsenville says Haitians have made a positive impact on the Springfield community.
We've been integrating the community pretty well. Haitians are hardworking people.
As uncertainty builds, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine shared his thoughts on the program ending.
What good does it do to ship them out of the United States? Does that do our country any good? And I think the answer is no. It does not do our country any good at all.
He's been vocal against sending Haitian immigrants back to Haiti, which is still recovering from a 2010 earthquake that destabilized the region.
Haiti is a horribly dangerous place. We tell our residents don't go to Haiti. You can't fly into the Port-au-Prince airport because you get shot at literally by gangs. The gangs run most of the country. It's a dysfunctional country.
In a statement to 10 TV, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said in part, quote, "Temporary protected status is exactly that, temporary. For too long, TPS has been allowed to function as a de facto amnesty program, despite Congress never intending it to be permanent. What we would say now is it's closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here," end quote. The DHS also said it would not discuss future immigration enforcement operations. Marjorie Wentworth, a board member of the Haitian Support Center, tells us she's concerned what will happen next.
I think what's difficult now is that we don't quite know how it's going to play out, right? I mean, everybody was pretty terrified about today. Lots of rumors about ICE. You know, how's that going to manifest itself? We don't know.
That was Kristen McFarland reporting. Dorsenville says he fears immigration enforcement actions could come at any time. He says the Haitian Community Support Center has been preparing by organizing food, transportation, and legal resources for those who need help. I spoke with immigration attorney Rishi Oza with Brown Immigration Law about the legal implications of TPS ending and options Haitian immigrants might have.
You know, a big concern is that a lot of these folks have been in the United States for a long time. I mean, these are not folks that have been here for 6 months or 8 months or maybe a year. You know, a lot of the folks with TPS have been here for 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, Haiti's had TPS for a very long time. And, you know, Haiti as a country still is very broken. They don't have a very good functioning central government. There's a lot of crime there. Rates of poverty are very high. So the one concern that we hear about a lot is just this fear of the unknown. A lot of these folks that are here have homes, have had long-term jobs, have U.S. citizen children. You know, they're kind of woven into the fabric of their communities. And now, you know, all of that is kind of laid to waste. And there's just a lot of uncertainty as to what their future holds. And, you know, we try to approach it case by case in terms of what we can do for this one family and how can we fix their particular situation. But it really is challenging to have a really comprehensive strategy for an entire community when each, you know, person's situation may be very different.
Now, is this something that can be fought, challenged in court, or is that Supreme Court ruling like the final word, and so this is going forward?
For Haiti and Syria, that's going to be the final word, unfortunately. Now, there's other countries that are still tied up in litigation, but ultimately the Supreme Court decision really gave the president pretty broad authority to terminate these TPS programs without a whole lot of explanation. You know, like I said, Haiti is by no means a stable place. I mean, it's not as if people going back to Haiti are going back to Canada or Germany or the UK, these places that are stable, functioning democracies and have jobs and economies. Haiti's very, very broken. And so the idea that the president can simply just remove TPS from places that still are very, very unsafe is an authority that the Supreme Court has given the president. The Supreme Court spoken, and that unfortunately is the last word.
Do TPS holders here have options to try to stay in the United States?
Sure. And a lot of that is going to depend on the specific case. So as a matter of fact, I have a case where someone is in the country from a TPS approved country, and their employer has gone through a green card sponsorship process for them. And so an employer can oftentimes step in. Now, that might mean they might have to leave for a period of time and then come back into the United States. But the nice thing about having TPS is that you're not in the country illegally. You're here in status. So if that status expires, we do want to explore, well, if you have to leave the country, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go back to Haiti. If you have to leave the country, maybe we can bring you back to the United States in 12 months, 18 months, maybe 2 years in another kind of classification. So all is not lost. It just means that the more time we have to find a solution, the more chance we have to implement it before somebody has to depart the country. So absolutely, I would say anybody that has TPS that is expiring or is expired already, go speak to Immigration Counsel, see if there's a solution that we can craft for you, because there might be a long-term solution to what is right now, it could be a short-term problem if we can minimize it.
Now, could they also seek asylum, or say for those who are already seeking asylum, does that enable them to stay as their case plays out?
Sure. So asylum presents its own unique challenges. So one of the requirements for asylum is that you have to have applied for asylum within 1 year of coming to the United States. Oftentimes people have missed that 1 year bar, so that might make them ineligible for asylum per se. But there might be other kinds of applications that can be submitted. There's what's called withholding of removal and protection of the Convention Against Torture, which are kind of similar to asylum. They're kind of like first cousins of asylum. And they might be eligible for those other types of relief that don't have that same 1 year filing requirement. But the government has indicated they're going to try to put as many of these folks into removal proceedings as possible. And on top of that, they're really trying to expedite removal proceedings to go as quickly as possible. So, I go back to, without sounding self-serving, speak to Immigration Council. There might be things that we have as options that we can propose that might make sense.
Do you think for now, though, that some of the immigrants are kind of hunkering down, probably just staying at home and kind of waiting to see what happens?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a feature of immigration for as long as I've practiced, over 2 decades, is that sometimes people just wait these things out. And, unfortunately, it pushes people into the shadows of working jobs that don't require work authorization, or not participating in just regular type of civic engagement, like going to church or volunteering for your kid's soccer team. People are scared, and they have lives here. So, if we talk about TPS as a broad program, it's easy to make these kind of grand, painting with a broad brush of, well, you should leave the United States. It's really hard for somebody who has a mortgage, who has kids in school, that might have medical issues, that have been a part of their community for 8-10 years, and just say, well, today TPS expires, you got to go.
And of course, we will continue to follow the latest developments on the temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants and how that will impact them, the ending of TPS. Coming up next on Face the State, this brand new attraction at the Ohio State Fair just might take you back to the olden days. First Lady Fran DeWine explains what makes the Ohio Children's Carousel, the brand new one, so special. The Ohio State Fair is rolling on into its 5th day now. There are some brand new things to check out this year. That includes the new old-fashioned Ohio Children's Carousel. It was designed, engineered, and built in Marion, Ohio. It features fair animals and animals native to Ohio. 10 TV's Jeff Hogan got a tour with a very excited co-creator, First Lady Fran DeWine.
It's the Woodland Gardens. And so you see all the woodland creatures here, all of them, the birds, everything, the flowers, the deer, all of them. It's going to be painted, but I personally think it looks beautiful in this natural wood.
400 to 600 hours of creation per animal, and what you end up with is just this art.
Shawnee Indian motifs on this. We had 1,000 Shawnees close to Xenia, Ohio, 250 years ago.
It all has meaning, maybe none more recognizable than this.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. And you think, how can you have a butter cow? You can't really ride a butter cow. Well, this looks like a butter cow, and it's got the tablespoon measurements like a stick of butter.
This one might scare me. I don't know. Dunk, right?
This is dunk. Dunkelostia. It's Ohio's official fossil fish. And so we decided, since it's our official fossil fish, why not put it on? This is our chariot, just for children. You can imagine sitting in it reading a book. We really did it for the Imagination Library, for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library.
You're going to be leaving office, leaving this as a legacy for people in 100 years.
Yes. Well, it's really fun as we did research to get to this place. We rode on carousels that were 100 years old, and they were so beautiful. And just thinking that this could be here in 100 years, and our kids and grandkids and great grandkids can ride on this, and I think that's really exciting.
Now, that is a work of art made up of a bunch of works of art. The carousel also includes the names of all 88 Ohio counties. You have a chance to ride it for the next week. The fair closes August 9th. Thank you for joining me this week for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. I'll see you next Sunday at 11:30. Have a great day.